I didn't wake up at like 6 in the morning and review all my slides, so I'm a little bit behind, but I think it'll work out well. So I appreciate everyone showing up. We're going to talk about how to fix like stalled weight loss. If you've been intermittent fasting for a while, or maybe even if you're new to intermittent fasting, we're going to go over like what you can do if you initially did well and then all of a sudden you stop losing weight. We're going to go over a whole bunch of different things. But let me first say hello to everyone, since I'm a little bit, hey Riggs, wow, I just, essentially, oh Riggs, like, there you go. Mel Brooks, I like Mel Brooks. I just found this content and completed my first 3-day fast. Well, congratulations, that's wonderful, excellent. And you stayed hydrated, 0 pounds lost. Maybe I need to go longer. No, I don't know. I think a 3-day fast is pretty aggressive. I think you'd be surprised. I think you know, who knows, you know, what happened when you didn't lose actually any weight. But we'll talk about things like that here. But I'm sure you burned some body fat with a 3-day fast. You created such a good calorie deficit. I'm sure you depleted your glycogen stores. I'm sure you're probably in a mild state of ketosis even. But we'll talk about what all those things are as we go. But I appreciate you showing up. Right, we got Rob Kohler here. Always love to see Robert. Patel, cool, thanks, from the UK. I appreciate it. This is great. I appreciate you showing up again. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. And then we got Harriet here as well, who always shows up every single Sunday too, so I really appreciate it. It's always fun, you know, when people tell me where they're coming from. You know, so when you leave a comment, if you don't mind, just, you know, let me know where you're from, which is so fun. I love seeing people from all over the world. And I'm assuming the sound is good. Since I was a little bit late setting up, I'm assuming the picture quality is good. So just someone give me a thumbs up to make sure everything is coming out okay. And I think I'm getting the comments like right away, you know, which is great. Okay, thanks. Just in time. I'm 6 pounds away from my 125 goal weight. Oh, fantastic. I've been in stagnation mode with your plan. Okay, so I think this is really going to help you, I think, today. We're going to go over like a few basic strategies, some common sense, some things maybe you haven't thought of that can really help. And then we get, oh, James is here. Oh, good. We got everyone's here today. This is great from Texas. Oh, hey, Jeff, how you doing? Thanks for showing up. White Plains, MD. Oh my goodness. Maybe you can. If I get anything wrong, let me know. Let me know for sure. I'm sure you can help everyone out in this live stream. Carol Jean. Hey, Carol Jean. That's great. Thanks for showing up. And Rob says the sound is good. Rosie, we got Rosie here as well. Thanks, Rosie, for showing up. And then Blue Sky Morning, beautiful. Hot dog, Utah. This is great. Okay, everyone's here. This is great. Okay, let's go over like how I've been starting these live streams now. I just like want to first talk about like what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to go over how to fix stalled fat loss when intermittent fasting. You know, and I think there's 3 or 4 basic components. We're going to go over calories because obviously calories do count. You could be eating too much or maybe too little. We're going to cover both of that. Then we'll go over food quality, what I consider to be good food quality, because that could be an issue. A lot of people start these fasting strategies, these time restricted eating strategies, and never change the type of foods they're eating. You'll always do better if you're eating better with all these different strategies. I think he meant White Plains, Maryland. Oh, I'm sure you're right, Rob. Sorry about that, Maryland. I guess I'm always off with my geographics, but I appreciate that. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for correcting that. And interesting that I think that text came in a different location. Then we'll talk about maybe like changing your fasting strategy. If you're using one strategy for a length of time, maybe it stopped working for you. For example, say you're doing 16-8, maybe doing like an OMAD day, 1 day a week could make a big difference. And then we'll go over like, I think you should be exercising. You want to do some type of resistance training and maintain muscle mass, and it'll help you with your weight loss process. If you're not working out and you're fasting, just doing something like that could really help. And then we'll also go over sleep. Sleep is a big factor. You know, if you're sleep deprived, hormonally your body is out of whack, you can become insulin resistant and all these different things. So we'll talk about all these things. But let's go over what I think typically happens to most people when they start intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. And let's just clarify, I do this every week, let's clarify the difference. When you're doing these fasting strategies like a 16-8, where you fast for 16 hours, then taking all your calories within an 8-hour eating window. If you do that intermittently, say you do it once, twice, 3 times a week, that would be intermittent fasting. But if you do that strategy every single day, say 16-8, 18-6, whatever strategy you're using, I would call that time restricted eating. And there are pros and cons to both, so we're going to go into that in this presentation. So let's say let's say you're relatively new to intermittent fasting, you're doing 16/8. I think a lot of people start there. You're doing it every single day, so that's time restricted eating. And initially you do really well because most people, it's a little counterintuitive, will just be reducing calories without necessarily counting calories when you're limiting your eating window. So if you're typically be eating 3, 4, 5 times a day, you've been snacking all day long, maybe you're only giving yourself, maybe an 8-hour fasted period when you're sleeping at night and maybe a little bit longer, then you go to a 16/8 or an 18/6. Most people do great out of the gate because you're just eating so much less. Plus, you're keeping that storage hormone low, insulin, right? The pancreas produces insulin to store away those excess calories. So when insulin levels are lower, it's easier for fat to be released, from fat cells to be burned up. So you're also creating a good environment to maybe burn a little bit more fat when you're doing these fasting strategies. So initially you did great. The first few weeks you're losing weight. The first few days you're losing some water weight. But then all of a sudden, maybe you're 2-3 months down the road, the weight loss stops. And this is what we're going to try to correct in this live stream today. But initially, most people I think just do wonderful. They love it. That's been my experience with it. So let's go over the first obvious one. One obvious thing, let me fix that camera angle. One obvious thing is that I'm a big believer in intermittent fasting that calories do count. I know some people think it's just hormones, but I think it's a combination of everything. Calories is definitely a major factor. So let's say you started doing that 16/8. You initially created a calorie deficit, but then you started just eating more. Like your body got accustomed to, say, an 8-hour eating window, and now you're able to eat more, and all of a sudden, you're just eating too many calories and your weight loss stops. And I think that happens all the time. So unfortunately, what you have to do then, in my opinion, is you do have to start tracking calories. I would track everything, but the main thing is protein and calories. So I would use something like MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. It's right on your phone. It's so easy to use. I do it from time to time, but I've been tracking calories on and off my whole life because I was into bodybuilding, things like that. Well, Chronometer is another good one. My daughter likes that one. It's a little bit more advanced. That'll break down, your vitamins, your minerals, your nutrients. But MyFitnessPal, I think it's great. It'll tell you how much protein, fats, and carbs you're eating. It's a great app. I would definitely do that. And my general formula for to be in a calorie deficit, it's so simple. Just take your body weight and multiply it by 10 or 11. So, for example, if you're 150 pounds, you want to take in about maybe 1,500, 1,600, 1,700 calories. I think that's a good calorie deficit to begin. It'll be extremely eye-opening that, for example, let's say you've been doing 16/8 for 3 months, the weight loss stopped. All of a sudden you start tracking your calories and you sit here and say, oh my God, I didn't realize I've eaten 3,000 calories in 2.5 meals. You really it can creep up in you. Your body gets used to only eating maybe 2.5 meals a day. Your body gets used to that 8-hour eating window, and all of a sudden you just start eating too much. And another thing I think is really important is to cycle your calories. We're going to get into that a little more in the next slide. What I mean by cycling your calories is that I like when some days you eat more, other days you eat less. So if you feel this formula is really aggressive for you, you can go 10 times your body weight, do a 16/8, 3 days a week, and then you can do a 16/8 maintenance calories, say eat 500 calories more than that, 4 days a week. I mean, all these strategies do work, but definitely you might be eating too much for sure if you're doing 16/8 or 18/6. It's one of these time restricted eating protocols, and you stop losing weight. So don't think it's not calories. Calories do count. So that would be the first thing to take a look at. And now this would be the exact opposite. And this can get a little bit more complicated. The other thing is you might be eating actually too little, not enough. And this is what happens. First of all, you can become malnourished, right? And actually, Sean Stevenson talks about this in his new book. His book came out about 6 months ago. I think it's a pretty good book. He talks about how if you're not getting enough vitamins and mineral nutrients, you're always going to be hungry, and you're always going to be eating to try to fulfill your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So it could be that. It could be that you've been too aggressively fasting. Maybe you're doing too many 1 meal a day. That's the OMAD, 1 meal a day days. Maybe you're doing 2 24-hour fasts. Maybe you're doing too many 2-3 day fasts, and you're just low on potassium. You're low on certain vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and that can slow your metabolism. That can just mess you all up and just gonna make you hungry, all the time. So maybe you do you don't eat one day and then you binge the next day. So keep that in mind. It's not good to restrict calories too aggressively for too long. Okay, and then also just being in a calorie deficit for too long of a period of time can over-exaggerate something called metabolic adaptation. Metabolic adaptation just means that when you're losing weight, your metabolism is going to adapt and slow down because you're smaller, you're not as big of a person, which is actually a good thing, right? It's almost like a way of survival, metabolic adaptation. But you can over-exaggerate that metabolic adaptation from restricting calories too aggressively too long. And if you look at some of the there were some researchers who studied, like, remember that TV show, that cookie show, The Biggest Loser, where they like just aggressively restricted calories and they over exercised that people. It seems like those people who lost, even though they lost weight, quickly and aggressively, years down the road, their metabolisms were so messed up because they over exaggerated that metabolic adaptation. Your metabolism is always going to slow down to some degree when you're losing weight. But if you do it too aggressively, the calorie restriction, if you're malnourished, if you're not eating enough, and you stay in a state like that for, say, weeks on end, for months, all of a sudden your metabolism slows down too much. So really keep that in mind. That's why I'm a big believer in taking a diet break. But I also want to talk about it. I didn't put this in the slide, but I bring this up in almost every live stream. I'm also a big believer in the protein leverage hypothesis, that whole thought process. I'm also a big believer that if you're not taking in foods that have an adequate amount of protein in them, you're going to keep on eating until you reach your protein requirement. So this really goes in both ways. The first slide, we're eating too much. So for example, if you're eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of garbage foods, and you're really not getting enough protein, you're going to keep on eating. You're going to keep on being hungry until you reach your protein requirement for the day. So that's something else to keep in mind. So what I want to talk about the next slide is the diet breaks, which I think is so important. So let's say you're in this category. Let's say you've been restricting calories aggressively. Let's say you've been fasting a lot. Initially you did really, really well. All of a sudden, you're 3-4 months into it, you stop losing weight. Maybe you're even tired, maybe you're not feeling well, maybe you're even not sleeping well. The metabolic adaptation got over exaggerated. Maybe your metabolism did slow down a little bit too much. So in my opinion, it's time to take a diet break. And there is some good research behind this, saying that people who actually restricted calories, say for a couple of months, and then they take a diet break where they increase their calories for a couple of weeks to maintenance, and then went back on a calorie restricted diet, actually did better for long-term weight loss than participants who just stayed in a calorie restricted state. Because some people, when they stop losing weight, they restrict calories even more, and all of a sudden you're eating 700-800 calories a day, you're not getting your vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, you're protein deficient, you're in trouble. Okay, so I'm a big believer in taking a diet break. Gene, who's normally in here, I bet he'll show up eventually. We have him taking diet breaks all the time. He's doing well. He's really lost a lot of weight, and I think it really helps. So a diet break is when you just basically go up to maintenance calories. And it can be a little bit confusing, like, what is your maintenance calories? I mean, you can go online and you can enter, your height, your weight, your age, your activity level, and you can kind of try to figure it out. But this is my simple formula. Just like the calorie deficit, you times your body weight by 10 or 11. So let's go back to the 150-pound person. Say you're eating 1,700 calories. You've been losing weight, then all of a sudden you stop losing weight. I would start eating 500 to 700 calories above your calorie restricted state. That would put a 150-pound person, say, at, 2,200 calories, something like that. That's probably your maintenance calories, and then see what happens. Don't be concerned too if you gain a couple of pounds, because when you're upping your calories, you might fill up your muscles and liver with glycogen, which you're going to hold a little bit more water, but it's a good thing. It's going to boost your metabolism. When you eat, it increases your metabolism, especially protein, because like we talked about in the past, protein has the highest thermic effect, meaning that when you eat protein, let's say you're eating a couple hundred calories of protein, you're having 4 ounces of shrimp, maybe that's a little more than a couple hundred calories, you're going to burn up 20, 25, 30% of those calories just digesting and processing that protein. So that's another way to boost your metabolism. So I would definitely increase your calories to maintenance for a couple of weeks, at least a week, maybe even 2 weeks. Make sure you're getting protein, make sure you're getting vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. And I think it's really going to help you. Then you can go right back to your normal fasting strategy. So let me simplify this. Let's say you've been doing 16-8, right? And you've been doing it for say 3 months. The first 2 months you lost 10, 15 pounds. You're really happy. Then your weight loss stopped. You don't know what's going on, right? You started tracking your calories, you realize that, oh my God, I'm only eating 1,100 calories, 900 calories someday, 1,100 the next day. Time to take a diet break. Time to up your calories to maintenance. Make sure you're taking in good protein, making sure you're taking in good nutrition. Do that for a couple of weeks. Don't freak out if you gain a couple of pounds, and then go right back to your normal 16-8. And when you're taking a diet break, you can keep it within your eating window if you want to. Or you can say, you know what, I'm just going to start eating 3 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, no snacks, something like that, maybe for a couple of weeks. And there's also, like I talked about in the past too, there is some research saying that taking in protein earlier in the day due to your circadian rhythm, like your circadian rhythm is your 24-hour internal clock, and it regulates so many different enzymes and hormones and genes within your body. So for example, let's say you've been skipping breakfast aggressively and maybe doing like a 18-hour fast every single day. Sometimes just taking in some protein earlier in the day could be a really good thing to jumpstart your metabolism, to just get things together. So maybe take a diet break, and maybe if you've been skipping breakfast, maybe have a couple of hard-boiled eggs and a piece of fruit at like 10 o'clock. Not that many calories. It's a good way to, I think it's a good thing to do from time to time. Let's see what 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾's got to say. Okay. I got to a point where I just want to eat OMAD, but it's not enough. I know. I've done that too. I can't choke down all the food needed. Well, I love OMAD, but I try to add 2 a day as well. You know, this is what I would do, 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾. First of all, like I know you've heard me say this before, but Sunday is my OMAD day. And this is my routine. Well, I didn't wake up early this morning, but I typically wake up 6 o'clock this morning, have a couple of cups of black coffee, drink a whole bunch of mineral water. Right now I'm just drinking the seltzer water here too. I prepare my slides, right? And then after this presentation, I take a 2-hour fasted walk, which I love to do, but it's raining today. We'll see how that goes. And then I give myself not a 1-hour eating window when I'm doing OMAD, but more like a 2.5, 3-hour eating window. See, my favorite strategy for OMAD, I would call it a 1.5 OMAD. See, I always want to make sure I'm taking in enough protein and like I'm saying, these vitamins and minerals and nutrients. So I think a better way to do OMAD is 1.5. And I'll give you some examples. Like when you're doing OMAD, I think it's totally okay to have, you can have like a can of tuna, a can of sardines, maybe some smoked salmon, maybe, you know, like a nice little piece of protein and 1 piece of fruit, or maybe a glass of celery juice if you don't mind the oxalates or something like that. Wait an hour and a half, and then have your one big OMAD meal. It really helps. Or I love the strategy of a protein shake. And I don't know if you can see this here. Let me change camera angles. I did a live stream. I did a live stream on Amazon a couple of days ago where I just talked about all my favorite protein powders. And I left them all out here. If you want to talk about this at the end, I'll show you some of the powders that I really like, all different protein sources. Nothing wrong with maybe doing a Quest protein bar or like a no-cal protein bar and then doing your OMAD. I think it's a better way of doing it. It's really hard to get in enough vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and protein in just one meal. I think it's okay if you want to do it 1 day a week, and that's like a calorie-restricted day. I think that's great, but to consistently do an OMAD, you know, when you look at the people who really do it, and you really analyze what they're doing, they're not really just doing a 1-hour eating window. They're taking in, you know, they're having a snack, and then they're doing their OMAD. I think it's a better way to do it. But it's a good strategy to do every now and then. But I love TUMAD. If you can get away with TUMAD, I think it's better. 2 meals a day is my best long-term strategy, by far my favorite. Let's see what Riggs got to say. I've been OMAD since September 1st, 2021, and dropped 50 pounds. Well, fantastic. But weight loss is still like, you know what, Riggs? You may have really been falling in that category of restricting calories too aggressively for too long, especially if you did a 3-day fast like you talked about earlier, and you didn't lose any weight. I mean, I think you're such a candidate for taking a 2-week diet break, for sure. I would like go on MyFitnessPal or Chronometer. Maybe you should go Chronometer, because it'll break down your potassium. It'll break down all your vitamins and minerals and enter your food for like 3 days if you're doing OMAD. See where you are calorie wise, and then I would probably increase your nutrition. I would take a 2-week diet break. I don't want to mess you up. You know, I don't know if you're working with a healthcare provider, you want to run it by them, but I would take a diet break. You know, you was 405, so that's great. You're around 350 now, which is incredible. But you'd be surprised. I mean, you may have overdone the calorie restriction. I love this fasting stuff, but I would do that. maybe take a diet break, maybe go back up to, I don't know how many calories you're eating. Check back in with me. I mean, I'm here every Sunday, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Or you can, just leave a comment under one of my videos. I read every comment. I ask every comment. Track your calories, your macros. Let me know where you're at, and I'll give you a more detailed, more specific recommendation, in my opinion, what I think you should do. Let's see what we got here. Let's G. I do better with 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂. I find myself consistently thinking of food. I totally agree. I think 𝘾𝙊𝙃 is probably the best long-term strategy possible when it comes to this intermittent fasting. And then obviously, I like it better when you skip breakfast or you skip dinner. Either one. If you can eat breakfast, you're probably better off, so you get that extended fast as opposed to just skipping lunch and eating breakfast and dinner. But that can even work too, a great way to restrict calories. But I think when 𝘾𝙊𝙃, you can take in enough vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. You can take in enough protein. You can take in enough calories. Even 𝘾𝙊𝙃 with a protein shake, which I do all the time because I'm working out. I own the gym and I'm lifting weights all the time. 𝘾𝙊𝙃 with a protein shake, or 𝘾𝙊𝙃, where you're still cycling your calories. Where one day, you eat a little bit less. One of your meals is kind of small. The next day, you're at maintenance. The key is to go to maintenance, restrict calories. Maintenance, restrict calories. That minimizes that metabolic adaptation when you're losing weight. And then we're going to talk about it later on. Then good food quality with an adequate amount of protein. Calories and protein are the two most important things to track. I lean more towards a low-carb diet, but you can do it eating carbs too. You really can. I did both in my life. When I switched to low carb, my numbers improved. Like my triglycerides dramatically went down. My HDLs dramatically went up. So my blood work is better. So I lean more towards a relatively low carb, not a ketogenic diet, but a low carb diet. But we're going to talk about that. Let's see what else Rick's got here. Okay. I never tracked when I started my weight loss journey, but I shuddered to think the amount of calories I was eating. I know you may have been eating a lot. I eat it till full. When I started tracking, I go down to 18. I think 18 is pretty aggressive for someone like 350 pounds. I think you can do that 18, and you can take in a reasonable amount of protein. I probably want you eating 150 grams of protein a day minimum. At 350 pounds or so. But 18, if you do 18 one day, or you do 18 for 2-3 days, I would pop you up to, I don't know, 2,500 for a day or two, and then maybe go back to 18. Cycle your calories. I think it's going to help you long term. And don't get concerned on those days if you eat like 2,500 calories, you jump on the scale and you're a pound or two heavier because you're just filling up your muscles and liver with glycogen. You're going to gain water. But the long-term weight loss is going to be better. 1,800 is an aggressive calorie restriction for someone 350. I think it's good to do it, and I'm great that you're eating till full, but I would cycle your calories. I think it's going to help you long term. That would be just my opinion. Okay, so let's go. So the first thing, like we talked about, if you're having issues, let's see. So vary the intake. Yes, I definitely would vary your calorie intake, and also your nutrition. We're going to talk about it more in the next slide. Oh, sorry, that popped up. We'll talk about it more in the next slide for sure. Is when you're consistently eating 1,800 calories and you've been doing it for a long time today, especially with OMAD. You might be low on protein. You might be low in certain vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. I would definitely up your calories with good nutrition, not with junk food. Actually with good quality, healthy food. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. So the first thing, let's just review. Calories count. You could be eating too many calories, or you could be eating too few. Okay? And we'll review this whole thing at the end too. So the second thing you have to look at, I think, when weight loss is stalled, when you're intermittent fasting, is you got to take a look at food quality, obviously, right? A lot of people do so well. Like, for example, I've had dozens and dozens of people say, oh, Mike, I'm doing OMAD. I lost tons of weight. I'm still eating all my favorite foods. I'm still eating junk food. I'm still eating my processed food. I'm eating my chips and my cookies. But I'm losing weight because they're restricting calories, right? Who knows how good their blood work is? Who knows how healthy they are, unfortunately? So at some point within this journey, in the beginning, you can get away with just about anything because you're restricting calories. But at some point, especially when the weight loss stops, we're talking about fat loss stops, time to take a look at food quality. And like we're talking about the calories, the biggest thing that I think to track is your calories, your protein and protein calories. But let's look at a whole food diet. This is how you want to eat. I mean, most people would say that if you're eating 2,000 calories, 2,500 calories of cookies, cakes, and donuts, and breads, and even simple carbohydrates, you're not going to be as healthy as someone who's eating a whole natural food diet. I mean, some people may even weigh the same, but you're probably going to have less muscle mass. You can actually be insulin resistant and still be losing weight, eating all junky foods, right? So you want to improve your food quality. The first thing you want to do is eliminate those processed foods. And I always tell people to do this. If you just take 10 minutes first off and write down all your trigger foods. Like trigger foods are foods when you start eating them, you just can't stop. And manufacturers design foods to be trigger foods. For example, like chips and cookies and cakes. You know what the junk food is, but write them down. Take 10, 15 minutes, write down. For me, I know what they are. For me, it's potato chips. My wife knows, my kids know, you keep potato chips in the house, I'm going to eat the whole bag. It's a trigger food for me. I have 2 potato chips, I want to eat the whole bag. And potato chips, obviously, are horrible for you. All those processed seed oils creates inflammation in the body. It's just a fried potato. I mean, it's horrible. The combination, the worst thing you can possibly eat is like processed oils, like these seed oils with those simple type of carbs, those processed type of carbohydrates is so bad for you. So I would write down all your trigger foods, make a note what they are. Make sure they're not in the house, and then tell the people around you. You know, tell your spouse, tell your kids, tell your parents, or whoever loves and cares you. Please do not bring me these trigger foods. You know, they was like when I first started dating my wife years ago. You know, when we were living together, she knew I loved potato chips, but I was so young back then. I can eat almost anything, and I was working out like crazy. She would bring me home these bags of potato chips all the time just because she felt, oh, Mike loves potato chips. And I told her years ago, please do not bring me potato chips. I'm going to eat the whole bag. So that's such a great way to eliminate the junk foods in your diet. Tell the people around you, do not bring me these trigger foods. Let's see. Hey, Joyce. Hey, Joy. Thanks for showing up. That's great. I appreciate it. Made the live. Hey, yeah, that's great. I appreciate it. Joy's always here all the time. She leaves all great comments on my videos, which I really appreciate. So number one, let's eliminate the processed foods, right? Let's eliminate the trigger foods in your diet. You're going to be so happy that you did. It's also a great way to reduce calories if you are eating too much, right? Now, I lean more towards a low-carb diet. And let me tell you why. I'll tell you my own personal experience, and maybe you can relate to it. You know, since I've been working in gyms from the age of 16. I opened my gym in 1989. I've had this gym for over 30 years. So over the years, I've tried all different diets. Even before, I mean, obviously 30 years ago, no one was talking about intermittent fasting. What was really popular, like in the 80s and 90s, was more of that, like 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾𝙃, Dr. Ornish, that more of that low fat, high carb, even moderate protein type diet. See, I always, whatever diet I was doing, since I come from a little bit more of a bodybuilding or weight training background, I always ate a reasonable amount of protein. The general rule back then was like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that's still pretty applicable now too. So I always did that. So say I'm 170 pounds, I'm eating 170 grams of protein. But what I did for like the first 20 years of my life, in my 20s and 30s, is I eat a relatively low fat diet because I don't want the calories from fat. And I ate a high carbohydrate diet because I wanted energy to work out, and I kept my protein adequate. And I looked good. I mean, I had low body fat levels. I have to say, though, I was starving all the time because I was eating a lot of rice, a lot of bread. I was eating a lot of potatoes. Right? I had a lot of energy to work out, but I was just constantly hungry because I was constantly spiking insulin, and then I would crash, and I'd eat more. Plus, I had the mindset, though, that I wanted to get bigger and stronger. Like I wanted to gain weight. I wanted to be like a muscle man, right? And when I had my blood work done in my 20s and 30s, my blood work was always good. But I have to say, like I said earlier, my triglycerides were so much higher. They were like borderline good. My HDLs were a little on the low side. Sometimes I've had numbers like in the 30s, like a 35, 36, even sometimes with my HDLs. And then around in my 40s, you all know I'm 59, I'm turning 60, which I can't believe it. I'm a little freaked out. I'm turning 60 this year. About, in my 40s, so about 15 years ago, maybe a little longer, I switched over to more of a moderate carbohydrate, kept my protein the same, higher amount of fat diet. And I don't chase fat, meaning that when I eat in the way I eat, when I eat a whole natural food diet, I'm not adding like butter to if I had a steak. I'm not putting MCT oils in my coffee. I'm not doing what I think are extreme things. I just eat whole natural foods like avocados, like whole eggs, like salmon, sardines. I eat in a way like that. I use a good amount of extra virgin olive oil when I'm sauteing vegetables. So I get most of my calories from fat without necessarily putting mayonnaise, throwing fat. It's just coming from the whole foods I'm eating. I try to limit my carbs, like the formula here. I eat about 100 grams of carbs a day, net carbs, maybe a little bit more from time to time. And my blood work is dramatically better. Like, I think the last time my triglycerides were like 41, my HDLs were like 68. My blood work is just so much better, and I'm really not hungry eating this way. So I would say, Mark Sisson talks about this. Mark Sisson is the guy who owns Primal Kitchen. He wrote the book, the Primal Blueprint, ancestral eating. He made that whole paleo movement really popular. I lost my train. Yeah, what was I saying about him? Yeah, he talks about metabolic flexibility. I feel I have metabolic flexibility. I feel like I'm a fat burner eating, a lower carb. I feel like I've created an environment within my body where it's easy for my body to burn body fat. So I do lean more towards a low carb diet, a low carb whole natural food diet. I don't think you have to do it, but I think most people will do better when they eliminate those empty calories from carbohydrates. And I know people say, and you don't have to be concerned that you're ever going to eat too few carbohydrates, because there's something called gluconeogenesis, where the liver can make carbohydrates from non-carbohydrate sources like proteins and fats. Like, you don't want to use muscle mass to make glucose, but your body can. But so my general formula for low carb eating is, if you're 150 pounds or under, try to eat about 100 grams of carbs, 400 calories. And they even put net carbs here, which makes it a lot easier. Net carbs are total carbs minus fiber, which enables you to eat even more carbohydrates. So like an avocado, even though an avocado has maybe 25 grams of carbohydrates, an avocado has 15, 16, 17 grams of carbs. So the net carbs in an avocado is very low. It could be 5, 6, 7 grams. That's where like a protein bar like this, like a Quest protein bar, I don't know if you can see it here. You can probably see it better from the this other camera angle. See, it says 20 grams of protein, 4 grams of net carbs. Even though the back of it, I don't know if you can see it, says 24 grams of carbs, because there's 14 grams of fiber in this bar. And they also minus the sugar alcohols, which could be a little confusing. But the net carb is only 4 grams. So that's why I like these Quest protein bars. Same thing with these no-cal bars. There's like 14, 15 grams of fiber in every bar like this. So if you eat like 100 grams of net carbs, you're 150 pounds, I think you're going to do great. And it just, in my way, when I limit carbohydrates, it's me telling people, don't eat processed foods. Because if you're eating cookies, cakes, and potato chips, and pretzels, right, or big bowls of rice, or like a half a loaf of Italian bread before your meal, you're just eating way too many carbs. And carbs really are sugars, right? It's not like you're getting fiber like from vegetables. Like, I'm a big believer in eating a bunch of vegetables, 2 different colored vegetables. We're going to give some examples at the end of this presentation of some of my meals that I've been eating now. You want your carbs that come from vegetables, a couple of fruits. Then you want to eat good quality protein. And you don't want to worry about the fat, as long as you're getting the fats from the whole natural food you're eating, like whole eggs, pasture-raised eggs, like salmon, like sardines, like avocados. And that would be how I would clean up the diet. And the other thing you want to make sure is you're getting an adequate amount of protein. And I always say 0.9 grams per pound of lean body weight, but that seems to be confusing people, because people have been emailing me and saying, Mike, how do I really know what my body fat is? First, I'll explain what I mean by 0.9 times lean body weight. Let's say you're 150 pounds, again, 20%, you're 20% body fat. So you got 120 pounds of lean body weight, times that by 0.9, that's 108 grams. That would probably be ideal, in my opinion, if you're somewhat active. If you're a vegetarian, if you're a vegan, if you're someone who's really concerned about, what people would call the genes like mTOR, like growth signaling, that you're afraid of longevity, and you're more in that camp of Dr. Walter Longo, who wrote the longevity diet. There are people, especially vegetarians, who believe that you don't need that much protein. And if you're in that camp, I understand that, you can probably get by with less. But I think for most people, because, you also, especially if you're doing fasting, because this is another reason why, which I don't talk about, which I love so much about fasting, the fact that I'm eating a good amount of protein. Say I'm eating 150 grams of protein a day. So I'm getting a lot of mTOR growth spiking, growth signaling to put on muscle or rebuild my body. But at the same time, I'm fasting 16, 18 hours a day most days. Today I'm probably going to fast 21 hours. I'm getting the inverse of mTOR. This the 2 is the AMPK. Like I'm autophagy. I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds, because I'm taking an adequate amount of protein, but I'm limiting it to a smaller eating window. So I'm getting the best of both. I'm getting growth, I'm getting repair consistently. But I do like that 0.9 per pound of lean mass. if you can kind of figure out what your body fat is. If that seems confusing to you, I think you can just times your weight by 0.9 and you'll be totally fine. Maybe it'd be taking a little maybe a little on the high side of protein, but with the thermic effect, most people, in my opinion, do not eat anywhere near enough protein. I've analyzed hundreds, if not thousands, of people's diets since working in gyms from the age of like 16. When you really look at some people's diet, they are not eating enough protein. They're just not getting the protein in. You know, a general rule is every 4 ounces of chicken, fish, or meat, there's 25 grams of protein. So just, I would make sure you're getting enough protein. And if you're a vegetarian or vegan, then you do want to do things like some hemp seed protein or something like pea protein. I got so many different examples here. If you want it at the end, I'll go through some of these. This is one of my favorite plant-based. This is a combination of pea and hemp seed. And you want complete protein. You want proteins that have all the non-essential amino acids. Now, I talk about that all the time, too. That's the term complete protein, meaning it has all non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids are the amino acids that you have to get from your diet. Your body can't make them. There are non-essential aminos that the body can make. And there's even, gets confused, there's even conditional amino acids that most of the time your body can make. But when you're sick or when you're under stress, you may have to get them more from your diet. That's why I always say like a whey protein isolate is like the rock star of protein powders because it's really high in the 3 branch chain, leucine, isoleucine, valine. Those are like the muscle building amino acids. It's really high in amino acids like that. Whereas the vegetable proteins are not as high. That's why a lot of manufacturers combined 2 different types of plant protein, like a pea, you know, with the hemp seed to increase the branch chain amino. So if you've been intermittent fasting for like 3 months, just to get back on point, and you initially were losing weight, doing great, but you really haven't changed your diet and you feel like your calories are somewhat in line, like some days you're eating more, some days you're eating less, you're not overeating, you're not really under-eating, and all of a sudden you stop losing weight, you may want to start look at food quality. Maybe you're just not getting it, you know, you're eating too much junky food hormonally, maybe you're spiking insulin too much, or maybe you're just not taking in enough vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, you're eating your trigger foods. You want to clean up your diet. And a whole natural food diet, in my opinion, is the way to go. I lean towards low carb, but you don't necessarily have to. But whatever carbs you are eating, just make sure they're vegetables, make sure there's some fruits. And you can even do things like sweet potatoes and some bulkier carbs that are relatively healthy for you, in my opinion, too. Let's see. What calories? You know, I missed some comments. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Okay. I cut fast food, soda, and sweets. Great. Down to meat, cheese, veggies, and Gatorade, sugar-free when available. Yeah, I would definitely go sugar-free in the Gatorade for sure. You know, cheese, I like the hard cheese, I think, a little bit better. But be careful a little bit with the cheese. But you have to eat, right? I'm glad you eliminated the soda and sweets, that's for sure. Let's see, Carol Jean, yes, I believe 2MAD is best. I love my berries. I love my berries too. Yes, waffle. There we go. Once a week, it's like strawberry shortcake. That sounds good. I like it. That sounds great, Carol Jean. I know you know what you're doing. I mean, whipping cream. Okay, whipping cream, sure. Especially if you make it fresh yourself. You know, not too bad. Right. And let's see what Jeff's got here. Sunday is my 1 meal a day too. Not counting my coffee. Me too. I'm drinking black coffee. Sometimes even with my black coffee, if you can look today, I actually did it. My wife made this for me because I was running so late. She gave me like a little bit, maybe like a half a teaspoon of half and half, which I do that from time to time. You know, maybe I'm getting 3-4 calories. I know a tablespoon of half and half is 20 calories. So I do half a teaspoon. A teaspoon is 3 teaspoons make a tablespoon. Half a teaspoon, I'm getting like 3-4 calories. Plus a cup of black coffee may even have 1 or 2 calories in it. I don't think it's going to mess up my fast really much at all. Chocolate cocoa. Ooh, that sounds coconut cocoa. That sounds good. That sounds good. So yeah, let's see. Older women need more protein. They look better too because women lose muscle mass by. I know, I totally agree. The older you get, the more protein you need, for sure. I don't really think you can overdo protein. I mean, if you look at another book I love was the PE Diet, Ted Needleman. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. I love that book. That was one of my favorite, nutrition diet books out there. First, I mean, I think it's only online. I have it online. It even has some beautiful pictures in it that he choreographed himself. He's like my weight. He eats like 200 grams of protein a day, and he thinks it's great, So, and the carnivore people like Paul Saladino, he's so smart, that guy. I can never debate him. He's eating, 250 grams of protein a day. He's down to just eating protein and fruit. I like his channel. He puts out some fun content. He's in Costa Rica now. He surfs every day. he eats a lot of organ meats, you know, to get his vitamin C and to get all those vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. But you know, I've seen him on debates. He doesn't feel you need fiber in your diet. He's so animal based. But initially, he wasn't eating wasn't eating fruits. Now he is eating some fruits, which I'm glad. So I heard him on one of his videos say he takes in about 150 grams of fruit, of carbs from fruit a day, sometimes even 200, and then all animal protein. The kid's shredded. He's 40 years old, 44 years old, you know. Hey, Betty, thanks for showing up. I'm doing OMAD, but I struggle with drinking water. Trying hard to eat healthy, but it's a real struggle. Need to lose 40 pounds. Okay, Betty, I know it's kind of hard to drink water. See, I love, I talked about this in the past too. I'm a big drinker of Pellegrino mineral water. Why I like mineral water so much is that it's high in the minerals, right? A liter of Pellegrino has about 50 milligrams of magnesium, and the adequate intake of magnesium for the day is about 400. Especially, see, that's the issue with a lot of these strategies, especially with OMAD. It's really hard to get in enough nutrition if you're doing OMAD every single day. I know you want to lose the 40 pounds. I'm sure you will. But I probably wouldn't do OMAD every day unless you're doing like 1.5 meals. When it comes to the water, it depends on what you're eating. Like my rule for water, and you've heard this before, drink half your ounces in water per day, so in liquids. So if you're 150 pounds, you want 75 ounces of liquid. I love the mineral water, but if you're eating foods that have a high water content, let's say you're eating salads or you're eating fruits and vegetables, you might be getting more water than you think. You know, I used to say this, and I've heard other people say, no, that may not be true. Like when you're urinating, if your urine is like strong yellow color, it means that the water is recycling through your body and you might be a little dehydrated. But dehydration is a big issue. Even your blood sugar can go up when you're dehydrated because the concentration of sugar in your blood. So it's not good to be dehydrated. I would do your best to drink. I don't know if you're drinking a lot of caffeinated liquids or things like that. Do your best to drink more liquid in general. It doesn't have to be water. It could be like, I love hibiscus tea. It could be, find a way, a little lemon juice, a little lemon in water. Even I wouldn't worry about a lemon juice or lime juice messing up your fast. There's even been some research that's showing that a little lemon juice in water can actually help control blood sugar, can help lower blood sugar. Try to increase the amount of water in your diet. You know, you don't want to be vomiting and throwing up and force feeding yourself water. Or pick more foods that have a higher water content. Like make sure you're eating a good amount of vegetables during the day. Make sure you're having a salad, have a couple of pieces of fruit. You know, do the best you can. Flavor your water any way you can. You can take that Pellegrino water or mineral water, throw some lemon slices in it. You know, throw any type of fruit in there. Throw some apple slices, even cucumber slices. Do something to make that water, you know, more appealing to you, you know. I'm listening to you for a while, doing my 3-mile walk. Oh, that's great, Joe. Yeah, I'm going to do my walk after this. I think it's raining in New York today, so we'll see. But I'll put my rain gear on. I'll probably do it anyway. But sometimes if it's really raining hard, I'll just do a 1-hour walk. I also have a Nordic Track in my house. Remember those old-fashioned Nordic Tracks? I love that Nordic Track. It's one of my favorite pieces of exercise equipment. It really hits the whole body. It's like low impact, great for your back. It's like force crawl motion. I love the Nordic Track. Hey, thanks for showing up. Hello. How many lemons are safe to use daily? I wouldn't even worry about it. I would do as many as you want. I mean, don't eat a dozen. You know, the idea is just to slice. You slice up like 2 lemons for the day and just throw the slices in water. I think it's going to do more benefit than harm, right? Eat a little vitamin C too. I think it's a good thing, the lemon. I wouldn't worry about it at all, the lemon juice. Okay, let's see what Jeff. Try putting a lime wedge in your cup and keep pouring the water over it when you refill it. Makes it taste better and doesn't add calories. I agree. I think it's a great suggestion. Wonderful. All right, so we covered calories. Now we talked about food quality, and let's talk about this one. Let's talk about varying your intermittent fasting schedule. I think this is a big one. This kind of encompasses all those things, but this is what I find too, which is really common. I should have put a link to it, but there's another app. I talked about it last time. They call Zero, which kind of tracks your fasting window. So, for example, when you stop eating, I say I stop eating at 8 o'clock, I go to my app Zero and I hit a button, and it's going to track how many hours I'm in a fasted state. Sometimes I used to use my phone, which you can just use your phone and just hit stopwatch and kind of track it that way. But it's very eye-opening because sometimes I stop eating at 8 o'clock. Sometimes, who knows? My kids, my wife, we don't eat. We don't finish dinner until 9. Sometimes we finish dinner at 7:25 or whatever, right? And I find that when I really analyze other people's diets who've been intermittent fasting, they're not really doing a 16-hour fasting window. They're not really doing an 18-hour fasting window. When you really look at them, they said, oh. Because so many people ask me questions, Mike, does a glass of white wine, after dinner mess up my fast? And unfortunately, it does, right? I just had, like a little bit of tea with some sugar. 1 gram of sugar unfortunately can mess up your fast. So, be realistic with your time-restricted eating or your intermittent fasting window. Most people think they're fasting for 16 hours, but they're really not. They're fasting 14 hours or so. First of all, that would be the first thing I say. I would start really tracking it and see if you're really doing it. Because initially you may be really motivated, right? Everyone in the beginning, you're doing it 2-3 months, you're doing great. And all of a sudden, that 16-hour window is creeping into maybe eating, that 8-hour eating window is expanding to like a 10-hour eating window, to 11-hour eating window, which is still good. I'm not saying it's not good, but that could be your issue. You're taking in a few extra 100 calories here and there, and you're not really sticking to your fasting window. Okay, let's see what Betty's got. 1 flavor my water. No, that's this thing, Betty. Don't be concerned about that. It depends what you flavor it with. Like if you just take some lemon slices, which are virtually no calories, next to nothing, I think you'll be totally okay. Lemon lime slices for sure. I mean, yeah, you may not want to squeeze the whole lime in it. I think you even can squeeze half a lime in it or a lemon wedge to make it taste better. I think you can definitely do that. No question about it. There's a little bit of calories, but like I'm saying, that lemon or lime juice is good for you. You can 1 slice of an orange, you can throw it in there. Cucumber, you can take cucumber slices, right? Peel the cucumber, the skin away, slice it up, throw some cucumber slices in there. I would definitely do that. You can even take a pinch of that Realman salt, that Himalayan salt. You can put in there for a little bit of flavor. I would flavor it a little bit. Like you don't want to pour juice, you don't want to put sugar, but you can definitely throw some lemon lime slices, a couple of strawberries, some cucumber for sure. I almost would recommend it. Actually, there are studies that show that adding a little lime or lemon actually increases the benefits of fasting. Yes, I have heard that too, because who talks about this stuff all the time? Like Thomas DeLore, I like his channel. I think they all talk about it. Dr. Berg, everyone talks about putting a little bit of lime or lemon juice or slices in water actually helps control blood sugar. It somehow clears glucose. Just like another thing you can do, Betty, is Thomas DeLore talks about this all the time, and I actually do this a lot myself, is do apple cider vinegar, like a tablespoon, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar in water. It kind of clears glucose. Similar to like cinnamon clears glucose, berberine, taking a berberine supplement clears glucose a little bit. It works. Some people feel, check with your doctor, obviously. Some people feel berberine works just as good as metformin, like that diabetic medication, which can help clear glucose. So definitely, I think you can. I mean, why don't you try the apple cider vinegar if you're really concerned about it? It's like no calories. You get a little bit of fermented food, feeds the good bacteria in your stomach, can help control blood sugar. I think it's a great thing. See, what I do is that I'm like you guys know, I'm more of a 2MAD person. I eat those 2 meals a day. That's my long-term strategy. A lot of times I'll do a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar right before in a glass of Pellegrino water before I have my lunch, before I have my dinner. I do that all the time. I do that at least 50% of the time, if maybe more. And if I'm gonna have like a real big cheat meal, I'll even take some berberine right before. Okay, so that's definitely, first of all, just be realistic. You may not be as strict with your fasting schedule as you think you are. Let's see. Just don't flavor with sugar. I agree, Jeff, definitely. Will stevia in coffee mess up or break my fast? I think I wouldn't really be worried about it. I even did a couple of short videos on that. The thing about stevia, no calories, it's like a natural sweetener. The issue with stevia is you have to know yourself. If you find that, because some research has shown that it will spike insulin even though there's no calories. So if you get an insulin spike and there's no calories, and it kind of like lowers blood sugar, right? And then like a half hour later you're famished because you just reduced blood sugar, it may not be a good thing. But I don't think putting the stevia in the coffee is a bad thing. If you enjoy the coffee more and you find it doesn't make you hungry an hour or two later, I would do it. But try to make a little note, maybe to, jot it down. How do you feel now with the stevia? How do you feel an hour later? If you're really hungry and you want to grab something or you don't feel right, you know the Stevia is not for you. And like a guy like Dr. Paul Saladino, he'll tell you, oh, it upsets the lining of your stomach. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I mean, I don't keep Stevia or monk fruit in my house as a sweetener. I just, you know, I'm more of a low carb guy. And but I think it's, for most people, I think it's okay. Let's see what James got. Hey, good morning, James. Thanks for showing up. I squeeze a whole lemon in my Pellegrino every day. I recommend it to everyone watching. It's so refreshing. I agree. I think you can definitely do that. And I must drink a couple of a liter or two of Pellegrino every day. It's just a little expensive, but whenever it's on sale, I buy a whole bunch of them. But every now and then I just do something like this. I just have a can of like, I drink a lot. My whole family drinks a lot of these, all these different brands of like calorie-free seltzers and things like that. And who knows, there's probably something a little artificial in there too. But that's why I like Pellegrino's the best. Definitely. I use liquid stevia in my coffee. Just check the ingredients and make sure there's nothing else added to it. I agree. I think a little stevia or monk fruit, I think it really is okay, as long as you don't get super hungry from it. Let's see what Joy's got. Not new to fasting. I lost 80 pounds. Oh, that's great, Joy. Doing OMAD 18.6. Kept it off for 2 years. Was in store for a few months. Did 48-hour fast. Then fasted 20 hours. Clean ate. Nutrient-dense foods. 4-hour eating window. Oh, that's fantastic. You know, that's another good way to do it, too. And I'm going to talk about that here a little bit. See, with the fasting schedule, I love, it's ideal time to make that comment, Joy. I really appreciate it. That was great, because as I was getting out of the idea of like make sure you're kind of really being adherent to your fasting strategy, another thing to do, which I think can pop you out of a plateau, is just to change it up, to vary your intermittent fasting strategy. And you have so many different options, right? So let's say you were doing 16-8, maybe you want to try an 18-6, try to go 2 more hours in a fasted state. And you don't have to do it every day, just do it a couple of days a week. That'll create a little more of a calorie deficit for you. You can do like a 20-hour fast with a 4-hour eating window, maybe once or twice a week. Create that calorie deficit just to mix it up. You can do an OMAD day once a week, right? You can do a 24-hour fast. Joy did a 48-hour fast. That seemed to snap her out of it. I find that people who like don't respond at all to like calorie restriction, most people don't do, but a lot of people, I've heard other like Peter T and other people talk about this stuff too, where sometimes people are just so insulin resistant and leptin resistant, and their hormones are so out of whack that even when they start restricting calories, they just have such a hard time losing weight. Then you maybe have to just like reset your set point. I even heard Dr. Jason Fung talk about this too. Then you may have to do like a 48-hour fast or a 36-hour fast or a 24-hour fast. It kind of like starts the weight loss process. And the same thing can happen if you hit a plateau. You just got to just like shock the system a little bit. Try a 48-hour fast twice. Check with your healthcare provider with it, obviously. I think most people, though, can do a 3-day fast so safely, in my opinion, as long as you stay properly hydrated. I talked about, I recently did a 3-day fast a few months ago. I didn't really like that last day, though, so I don't know how quick I'll be doing that again. Another option is you can do like that Volta Longo. You can do the fasting mimicking diet to pop you out of a weight loss plateau. I think that's a good thing to do. I just had 2 clients at my gym do it. They both did really well. The Pro line is this like, it's more of a low protein type program. What it is, Pro line, I think it's like under $200 now. What they do is that they send you this box of food. It's like teas and bars and some foods. And for 5 days, you just eat the food in the box. So the first day, they give you like 900 calories. Then the next 4 days, they give you about 700 calories. And it's a relatively like plant-based, low-protein type diet, because Dr. Volta Longo wants autophagy. He wants to create like a fasting environment. He wants that AMPK, the sirtuins. He really wants you to go into repair mode. So he says that doing a 5-day fasting mimicking diet is the same thing, or almost as good as literally fasting for 5 days, but you are able to take some food in. It's much more reasonable. Actually, one of my clients that just did it, he was a guy who was such a carb eater his whole life. And, he just the thought of him trying to fast for 5 days, he just knew he couldn't do it. But he did the fasting mimicking diet with the Volta Longo. He called me on the 3rd day. He was a little freaking out. I said, "Oh, Mike, I'm really hungry." But he did it. He lost 7 pounds in 5 days, and then I feel like he's a different person. It reprogrammed him completely. He lost a lot of his carb cravings, and what he does now, which I love, I didn't realize they offered this, but this Pro line, they also offer like 1 day fasting mimicking. So what he does now, every Monday, it's almost like he's doing like just a low calorie day. He follows the those foods. They're like he eats like 700 calories with these foods one day a week, which is really good. So one of the things I started out doing was that Eat Stop Eating book that came out like 12, 13 years ago, where I think 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂, am I pronouncing his name right? That was a great book, Eat Stop Eating. He was a big believer, and he wrote this whole book. This is way before anyone was really fasting. Kind of popular more in the physique bodybuilding community, where you would fast for 24 hours once or twice a week. And he didn't get too deep into the science, but he almost presented it like it's a great way to reduce calories. Like, you just think, if you're normally eating 3,000 calories on a Monday, and you stop eating 3,000 calories, right? You fast one day a week, you're going to be almost a pound lighter every single week. Plus, there are also so many hormonal benefits, right? You're keeping insulin levels low. Plus, that 124-hour fast, you're emptying the stored glycogen in your muscle and your liver. So then the next day when you eat, you just fill them up again. It's a great strategy. That prolonged one day a week or twice a week, or a 24-hour fast once or twice a week. So I would say whatever fasting strategy you're doing, if you've been doing it for a long period of time and your calories are in line, right? You're eating good food quality, and you stop losing weight and you're not at your goal weight, mix up your strategy. If you're doing 16-8, try an OMAD day. If you're doing OMAD, maybe too often, maybe go back to 16-8. Just mix it up a little bit. You can try to +2, like I talked about. If you've always been skipping breakfast, eating lunch and dinner, maybe you want to try the inverse if you can do it. It never worked for my schedule. I've tried it multiple times. Maybe you want to start eating breakfast and then have a late lunch, or eat like 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock, do something like that. Mix it up and see what happens, Okay, let's see what Joy said. I know this is Joy's thing. Yeah, I'm told she's doing so well. That's so great. Any other comments? Okay, let's get the party going. Okay, so now there's another thing. Obviously, too, if you've been intermittent fasting, but you just haven't really been working out, and initially you did well because you restricted calories, like all the things I'm talking about, but you do really have to work out, I think. I mean, it's so important when it comes to reducing calories, when it comes to losing weight, is you do want to maintain your muscle mass, because the muscle mass is what keeps the metabolism up. It's what keeps you healthy. It's so important for longevity to be strong. Just grip strength is such a correlation to longevity. And the main reason why I think grip strength is so important, sometimes, I don't know if they ever measured it when you go for your annual physical. I've measured it so many times, because when you take exercise physiology and you're always doing you're evaluating people in a gym. Years ago, we always would have people do a grip strength, like a grip strength meter, just to get an idea of how strong they are. But the reason why grip strength is so important when you get older is that, say you're walking down steps and you're going to slip, you can grab the railing, you can hold on, right? You got good grip strength. So just maintaining muscle mass when you're losing weight is so critical and so important. So that's another way to break out of a weight loss plateau. If you haven't been working out, start exercising. And you want to do the basics. I love fasted walk first thing in the morning. I don't think there's anything you can do better for your mental health and even physical health than taking a walk first thing in the morning. I recommend it all the time. If you can wake up, no matter, whenever you're going to work or whatever your life entails, if you can wake up, have a big glass of water. If you want to have a cup of coffee, have a cup of coffee too. And then throw your sneakers on and go outside for a 30-minute walk. First of all, you've been in a fasted state overnight, so you're going to burn a greater percentage of fat calories when you're walking. First of all, you're building your aerobic base. And I'm just talking comfortable walking, easy walking, right? It's mental clarity. You're clearing your brain, the endorphins. It's such a good thing to do. Plus, I'm always into that task completion. Remember that? I think it was an admiral, a famous admiral. If you go on YouTube, talks about why he wants his, I think he was he ran like a ship, so maybe he was I don't know if they're sailors or soldiers. I don't know what you would call them. I'm not familiar with the military in that way. He talks about why he wanted his soldiers to clean their barracks, make their beds every day. And the main reason was not what you might think. You would think, they wanted to be immaculate and clean and very neat. He said, no, why we do it is because we want to start our day doing something positive, completing a task. See, when you task complete first thing in the morning, you're setting the day up to be a positive day to get a lot of things done. And I find with exercise too, for a lot of people, first thing in the morning is so much better, because no matter what, if you wake up in the morning, you complete the task, so you're creating momentum. Plus, you already got your workout in no matter what, right? No matter what comes up during the day, something happens. Like if you plan on working out after work, or you just plan on working out later in the afternoon, things come up, you can't do it. No matter what, you got your 30-minute walk in. It's such a great thing to do during the day, and it builds that aerobic base. The second thing, ideally, I'd love you to do is some type of high-intensity cardio. This may be going a little too far for some people, but if you can do just, a few hard intervals 2-3 times a week of some hard cardio, like even if you're doing that walking, say you've been doing it for 3-4 months, and you just add a little bit of a jog or a little bit of a sprint, maybe for 30 seconds, 2-3 times within the workout would be great. So that's another thing I'd love you to do. And then the main thing you have to do is some type of resistance training. And it doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to join a gym. I'm just talking about some push-ups at home. If you can't do push-ups off the floor, do them off a countertop. I got tons of videos on the YouTube channel going over some basic exercises you can do. Some push-ups, some bodyweight squats, some bodyweight lunges, some planks. Spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2-3 days a week doing a little bit of resistance training. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to be a muscle man. It's so important when you're losing weight to maintain that muscle mass. You're always going to lose a little bit of muscle when you're losing weight anyway, but you want to maintain that muscle mass as best you can. Okay, so that's another way. And then I would say the last major factor is a lot of people just don't sleep, especially now, especially when you're getting older. If you're sleep deprived, you're going to increase like the stress hormone cortisol, and then you can become insulin resistant. Research is showing that just one bad night's sleep of like say one night you only slept 3-4 hours, you're going to be insulin resistant the next day. And if you're not familiar with insulin resistant, it just means that when, I talked about this earlier, whenever you're eating food, right, your blood sugar gets elevated. So what the body does, the body doesn't like more than say 5 grams, like a teaspoon of sugar in the bloodstream at any one time. So the pancreas produces insulin to lower blood sugar, to store away those excess calories, right? Carbohydrates get stored in the muscle and the liver. Fat gets stored in fat cells, plus the fat gets mixed in between muscle cells. It's intramuscular fat, things like that. So insulin's a great thing, right? It stores away the excess sugar so you control blood sugar. Like people who become insulin resistant, meaning that the pancreas is producing this insulin, right? But the cells, insulin just not working right. Like the cells just can't absorb insulin. Whether the muscle and the livers are just completely full, that could be an issue. Or your pancreas has just been pumping out so much insulin for years, for decades, because you've been overweight and just eating a lot of bad food, that insulin just stopped working. And that's when blood sugar gets chronically elevated. That's when you become type 2 diabetic. That's when all the metabolic syndrome, all the bad things start happening when you become insulin resistant. And actually just a lack of sleep can create temporary, or if not long-term, insulin resistance. Let's see what Jeff's got to say here. Okay. I do tennis 3 nights a week, and I have dumbbells at home. So if I do dumbbells twice a week, do you recommend doing that on non-tennis days, or do both? I would do whatever works for you. I probably would say non-tennis days, but as long as you're not getting screwed, I don't want to affect your tennis game. Like, you don't want to do like a hard upper body workout and then the next day be sore, and then have that affect your tennis game. So you have to just see what works. See, the great thing about the tennis is you're getting that high intensity, right? You're getting those intervals. You're sprinting, you're resting, you're sprinting, you're resting, which is incredible. And and you're still getting a little bit of everything. Tennis, you just get everything. You're getting some resistance training there too, because you're lunging and you're moving around. It's hard to say. I would experiment with both. If you're doing moderate dumbbells and then the next day you're not sore and you feel like you can play tennis and not be affected, I think that's great. But if you feel like you are a little sore, try both, Jeff, and see what happens. I would try both. Okay. My job is super physical 3 days a week, but I still lift 3 to 4 days a week. And my sleep is an issue. Oh, sorry, Gene. Yeah, we'll talk about sleep a little bit. It is an issue for me from time to time. So I cycle in and out of good sleep patterns. And let's see. Hey, Gene is here. Wonderful, Gene. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Gene's been here all the time. I'm curious to know how you're doing. That's great. Yeah, so, sleeping is so important to get, 7-8 hours, even 6 hours of good quality sleep every night. And there's a few things that I do. These are the things that I've been doing. And I'll talk about even some supplements that I take from time to time. First of all, not eating like 3 hours, at least 2 hours before you go to sleep, to me, makes a big difference. This goes back to a couple of slides ago. Like, it's, a lot of times people finish dinner, like say they finish at 8 o'clock, they figure they're done eating, but then they drink wine or something, or have a couple of cocktails up until 11 o'clock at night. First of all, that's breaking the fast, right? Secondly, it's going to interrupt your sleep. If you are going to have a drink, like a little wine, I like to drink wine. I didn't drink at all January and February. I took 2 months off from drinking completely. But lately, summertime, I've been drinking a little rosé or something like that. you know, a couple of times during the week. I think we had some last night, Saturday night, right? Try to drink it earlier in the evening, and you know, enjoy it, and then stop at least 3 hours before you go to sleep. Try to have no alcohol, no food 3 hours, at least 2 hours before bedtime. It's definitely going to help you sleep. See, the alcohol makes you pass out in a way, and it affects REM sleep. It just messes you up. Let's see what James got to say. Mike, if you have a bad day of eating, like a cheat day, how long will it take to get it out of your body? You know, it's really hard to say exactly what did you eat. It's like, for example, unfortunately, those seed oils, and I just heard 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂 talk about this, and you know, he's the guy into the keto camp. He's got a real popular YouTube channel, TikTok, all that. He puts out a ton of content. I like his content. He was talking about how seed oils, you know, stay in your system for like 2 years around the cell membrane, which is kind of freaky in a way. You know, those inflammatory processed, heated, hydrogen enhanced type of oils. So the oils can really stay in your system for a long time and create inflammation and do some bad things. The carbohydrates, even if it's like straight sugar, is more acute. You know, it can be in and out, but I find that what freaks people out on a cheat day is that, like, say you've been eating like more like me. Let's say you've been eating relatively low carb, and one of the benefits, in my opinion, of eating low carbs is that my muscles are never really full to the brim with carbohydrates. See, a typical person could store 1,500 calories, maybe a little more, a little bit less, depending on how big you are, of stored glycogen. You know, when you eat carbs, you know, the body breaks them down, and then the excess carbs get turned around and it gets stored as glycogen in your muscles, right? Let's say you can store 1,500, but you can also store like a 3 to 4 grams of water per gram of carbohydrates, glycogen stored in the muscle. So when you eat low carb, your muscles are never full. So if you have a cheat day and you carb up, and I do this from time to time, I could be 4 pounds heavy the next day. And then sometimes the body can overcompensate, like glycotic supercompensation, where you could even store more carbs than you typically would. That's why you don't really see like marathon runners and like competitive athletes now, endurance athletes, like carb loading. Maybe they use the carb load because they gain so much weight that extra 3-4 pounds slows them down, that they're better off just taking in calories like during the race. So sometimes that freaks people out. So I hope I'm answering this question properly. So like, how long will it get out of your system? Unfortunately, those oils can stay in your system for a long time. When it comes to carbohydrates, you're just going to fill up your muscles and your liver too with glycogen, and that can take a day or two depending upon how many carbs until that kind of gets out of your system. The key to me of low carb eating is to deplete glycogen, fill it up, but not overfill it. Like some people explain it like this: when your muscles are full with carbohydrates, think of a glass of water that's full to the top, and then you keep on pouring water on top of in the glass that's spilling over. If your muscles and liver are full of carbs and you keep on eating excess carbohydrates, it's going to be converted into body fat, triglycerides, and you're going to have a lot of issues. It's going to lead, if you do it for a decade, it's going to lead to like insulin resistance. So it's hard to answer that question exactly. It depends on like what your base point is, right? Someone like me, since my muscles are generally never full, I can probably take in more calories on a cheat day and still be okay. Just gain some water weight and fill up my muscles a little bit. Let's see. How many months we should follow intermittent fasting to lose weight? I follow 24. I've been following for 6 months with a lot of, and that's great. I mean, if you know, it's hard to answer. I think you can do intermittent fasting somewhat indefinitely, and you know, depending upon what your goals are. Like eventually, maybe you know, I don't know if you're at your goal weight, if you've been doing 24 and you reach your goal weight 6 months from now, and then you just want to maintain the weight loss. You know, either make sure you up your calories within your 4-hour eating window, right? To make sure you're just at maintenance calories, eating good quality food. Or maybe you want to do 24, not every day. Maybe you want to do a 4-hour eating window 3-4 days a week. Then maybe you want to do an 18-6 or a 16-8, 2-3 days a week. So you're cycling your calories. On the days you do a 4-hour eating window, you're eating less. On the days when you're doing an 8-hour eating window, you're eating more. You can do that. You know, it's kind of hard to say. I'm not sure if you're at your goal weight or, you know, where you're at, but I think you can do it somewhat indefinitely. You know, some people do these strategies just for autophagy, just for like longevity, and just for like health and controlling insulin and maybe controlling blood pressure and doing things that without even having weight loss as a goal. You know, it really depends what your goals are. Oh, Debbie said, "Hey, Debbie, how you doing? Thanks for showing up." You bring up a great point about sleep and cortisol. My 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂 told me that my high cholesterol until he helped me find a way to sleep. Okay, so getting better sleep improved your cholesterol. There's no way I'd lose weight. He was right with the sleep study and adjustment to increasing pressure on my machine. I finally broke a stall and have lost. Oh, that's great. Take me a while, but I finally see the scale go down. That's great. So Debbie was having an issue with sleep, and then when she corrected her sleep, she started losing weight again. Yeah, cortisol is interesting. Cortisol is like a stress hormone, like the fight to flight response. When you wake up in the morning, cortisol levels are elevated. But what cortisol does is that it releases glucose to some degree, like the liver will put out some glucose to help you wake up. And that can even cause, an insulin resistance response too, to some degree. The stress hormones are a big issue. See, cortisol initially can help, and then if it's chronic, it can lead to a long-term situation, which is definitely a problem. Oh, Gene, hey, thanks. Oh, cortisol, not cholesterol. Like I know, I understand. That makes sense. I shouldn't have said cholesterol. Super chat. Oh, thanks, Gene. Oh, whoa, you reached 230 pounds. Congratulations, Gene. That's fantastic. So that diet break really works. See, Gene was losing weight and he stalled. He took a diet break. He gained a little bit during the diet break, and now he's down to 230. Oh my God. I'm hoping to reach 230. Okay, you're hoping to reach 230. If you don't mind saying, let me know. You can just privately text me. I'm curious to know where you are now. I think you were 258 or 248 last time. I'm not quite sure. Okay, that's great, but I really appreciate the super chat. Gene gives me a super chat every single week, which I really appreciate it. Right, cortisol, W. Yeah, cortisol is like the stress hormone, which can definitely affect weight loss if it's chronically high. It's interesting though on a longer term fast, not to confuse things. It gets a little confusing. Like when you're fasting longer, let's say you're doing a 36-hour fast. Actually, those stress hormones, those counter-regulatory hormones like a cortisol, like the fight-to-flight adrenaline or human growth hormone, actually testosterone actually gets elevated on a longer fast, which does release a little, like glucagon, that does release a little sugar into the bloodstream, but that can actually boost up your metabolism. But when you're chronically high with those stress hormones, and I may even have spelled it wrong in this slide. Did I spell it right? Maybe I did spell it right. But if it's chronically elevated from sleep deprivation, it just hormonally messes you up and really can cause an issue. So I have found that just improving people's sleep quality. This is another thing. Sean Stevenson wrote a great book on sleep. It's a great book. He really goes into this stuff in great detail. That just improving sleep quality can really help. Just for example, let's say you had a bad night's sleep consistently. Let's say you haven't been sleeping good, right? Every morning you're waking up, you're insulin resistant, and you have a big breakfast. Oh my God, that's like the worst scenario, because now you got all this sugar running through your bloodstream, right? Your pancreas is pumping out insulin to lower it, and you're insulin resistant. So there's like, where is all these calories going? You're going to wind up with metabolic syndrome, right? And it could be all related to just, years, if not months, of just poor sleep. So definitely an issue. Anxiety is a killer too, Cal. Yes, no question about it. Same thing. Same, meditate, yes. Actually, I'm a big believer. I even did a couple of videos on it. I love that 4-7-8 breathing. I think it's the simplest way to get started, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold the breath for 7 seconds, breathe out slowly for 8 seconds. Even just 5 or 6 cycles of that, I find really helps me. I do it before I wake up every morning, before I go to sleep at night. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I do that 4-7-8 breathing. This is Andrew Weil. He's that Harvard doctor who became like more of a holistic doctor. He wrote this book like 25 years ago. Like, I think it was 7 weeks to optimal health. It was something along the lines of that, but I got that 4-7-8 breathing from him. I have to say, I do it and I instantly feel so relaxed. If I'm stuck in traffic, I do 4-7-8 breathing. There were times when I've tried to really meditate where I would take 20 minutes here and there, but I really should start doing it again. I think, good point, Carol Jean. Yes, meditation is key. Do you think exercising only 30 minutes after waking up is too soon? Do you think exercise is only 30 minutes? No, I don't think so, Gina, but it depends on how intense it is. Like, I know you talked about HIIT training. I definitely think a long, easy walk, a 30-minute walk, totally okay right after you wake up. It's interesting. And I know we talked about also Dr. Stuart McGill. Dr. Stuart McGill is that famous professor who wrote all the textbooks on lower back pain. This is what he would tell you. He says when you wake up in the morning, the discs in your spine, those little like shock absorbers within your spine, are kind of filled with fluid, and they're kind of puffy. So he doesn't want people like exercising as soon as they wake up, or like flexing or extending their spine. He says that as you wake up, within about 45 minutes, if you're walking around and moving around easy, they kind of drain a little bit. And then, like, say you have a Bowles disc or a herniation where you get that jelly sticking out. In the morning, it's going to feel worse. So he would recommend you wait about 45 minutes. Me personally, I never was one of those type of people who can do a hard workout right out of the gate in the morning. I have no issues whatsoever walking. I actually love it. I feel like it clears my head. I love taking an easy, 30-minute walk in the morning. I do it all the time. Maybe my heart rate's like 90 beats a minute, which is relatively low. I guess you would call that zone 1, not even zone 2 type training, really easy. I think that's great. But, Gene, I probably would be a little careful doing like a high intensity workout or doing, like heavy, resistance training. Some people can do it. It's interesting because I've been training people for like 40 years, like literally, even though I say 30. There have been many times when I would have a 6 o'clock client in their home. So I would like ring their doorbell, or they leave their door open for me 6 o'clock. And then my client would like stumble down out of bed. I said, "Hey, Joe, you just woke up 5 minutes ago. Did you drink anything?" He said, "You can't do a hard resistance training workout. You woke up 5 minutes ago. Yeah, it's gonna shock your system. I mean, let's go." And I said, "Okay, let's go outside. Let's go take a walk." And we'd walk for 30 minutes. Then we'd come back and do like a 30-minute workout. So I don't know, Gene. I mean, I wouldn't work out hard. 30 minutes after waking up. I probably would wait a little bit. What are the 3 best dumbbell exercises to do? Well, Jeff, that's a real hard one to say. I think dumbbells are so much better than barbells because there's less shearing force. So you can, like I always say this, like let's say you're bench pressing with a barbell, your hands really want to slide together. They can't because they're fixed on the barbell, which creates more shearing force. My favorite movements, with dumbbells, I think just the dumbbell squat is a great thing to do. You hold the dumbbells, you squat up and down. I think that's great. RDLs, the Romanian deadlift with dumbbells. I love that movement. I love all like lateral raises, shoulder presses, bicep curls, tricep extensions, dumbbell rows. You really can do everything. The keys, I think who wrote that? I think it was Bill Pearl, that famous bodybuilder. Am I pronouncing his name right? He says Keys to the Universe. It's like a book on like every possible dumbbell exercise you can get. I'll link it below this. I haven't looked at that book. I have it somewhere in years, but I love that book. That was incredible. Every exercise you can possibly imagine for dumbbells is in there. Honestly, I do. Honestly, the one I enjoy the most is the lateral raises. I love lateral raises too. Yeah, I do. Yeah. But I don't know if I'm doing them, more of these is helping build muscle, if it's better to do more. No, this is my feeling. First of all, if you like the exercise, I think it's a wonderful exercise. It's good for the medial and anterior head of the deltoid. There's 3 heads of the deltoid: the front, middle, and posterior. If you slightly lean forward and internally rotate your shoulder just a little bit, you'll hit more the medial head. That's how I like to do it. I got a couple of videos on YouTube talking about that lateral raise. If you like it, this is my thing. When it comes to changing your exercise routine, I don't think you have to change it like people say anywhere near as much. I think you should do those core basic movements. You can make a workout different without necessarily changing the exercise. So you can do, Jeff, if you want, you can do one, you do some crazy high reps, do 25, 30 reps one day, for a month, or and then the next day do super slow, do like a 6-second eccentric repetition. Rest less or rest more between sets. There's so many ways to make the workout different without necessarily changing the exercise, because I love those core exercises. You got to be a little high with the lateral raise, not to go too high up, because you don't want to bump, it gets tight in the shoulder a little bit. But I think it's great. Okay, let's see what Gene's got. Okay, Gene. Okay, well, 248. That's good. Sounds on an empty stomach, and I'm doing another full week diet starting tomorrow, hoping to reach 30. That sounds great, Gene. I love it. So I guess you were like 258 the week before. So you're doing great. Wonderful. I love it. I think you're doing good. I love how you're cycling in and out of a calorie deficit, maintenance, and then taking a break, and now going back into it. That sounds great. I'm curious to see how you're going to do next week. You're going to be lighter next week for sure. That's great. Let's see what we got here. Oh, thanks, Cal Jane. That's great. James, okay. Bottom line, what would you say is the percentage of diet to exercise to losing fat? Some say great health starts in the kitchen. No, yes. Okay, this is. I think I kind of understand what you're saying. Maybe you can. Sometimes I have a hard time reading these comments on the fly. like maybe my dyslexia, like I talked about in the past. So one day I'm going to have my daughter or someone co-host this with me. They're going to read the questions and say them to me. I think I can probably answer them better. No, I definitely think this is a general rule, and I've been saying this for years, and other people say it too. Don't control your weight with exercise. You want to exercise to create the response you want, meaning that even when I took exercise physiology courses, you know, I had one professor, he used to always judge exercise like calorie expenditure. He said, well, you know, if you burn 2,500 calories per week, that's a good amount of exercise. Whether you're doing it in 2 days and doing long workouts, or whether you're doing like shorter workouts 5-6 days a week, he used to always talk in terms of calorie expenditure as the ideal amount of dose of exercise. I would like you to look at exercise as purely creating the response and not even concern yourself with how many calories you're burning, meaning that you want to do like long, easy base building. It's good to build the aerobic base. It's good to help the body become a fat burner, as opposed to like looking at how many calories you burn. Like when you're walking easy, you're using those like slow twitch muscle fibers, those dark meat chicken. You're creating the system that help the body burn fat. The harder you work out, the more carbohydrates you burn. So you definitely want to do some type of base building regularly. Then you also want to do that high intensity aerobic type stuff to increase your VO2 max. Your VO2 max is your maximal oxygen consumption. There is research showing that people who have a higher VO2 max have more longevity, live longer, and are just healthier. So you do want to do some type of that high intensity type training a couple days a week. Could be very short. Even though you do burn a greater percentage of carbohydrates and a greater percentage of calories, you can do a high intensity workout in 10 minutes twice a week. So I wouldn't even look at it as calorie expenditure. It's just a great thing to do. And then you want to do some type of resistance training to increase your muscle mass, to maintain your muscle mass. Also good for flexibility and balance. You also want to do some mobility movement work, where you're lubricating your joints. So I don't really look at my exercise as me burning calories. I control my weight by how I eat. And I work out to create the response I want. I want to be relatively muscular. I want to be flexible. I want to have a good balance. I want to have a high VO2 max. And I want to have a good aerobic base. And it's good for my mental health to exercise. My walking is more for my mental health than probably anything else. So, I would look at exercise like that. Create the response you want. And the fringe benefit is you're burning calories, right? That's like the bonus. But I don't want to mislead you. There have been many times in my life where I overdid it, or like for example, when I'm turning 60 at the end of August, I was going to try to get my body fat low, and I haven't given up on it. So, I might up my exercise, volume to maybe burn a little bit more calories. But that's just like a specific thing that I might do just for like, a specific thing, like for a birthday or something like that, like training for a bodybuilding contest or something, or for a physique contest. I may overdo it a little bit with the cardio just to burn a little bit more. But in general, 95% of the time, I'm exercising, or I think people should exercise to create the response they want, not control the weight with exercise. Let's see what Joy said. I put mint leaves in water. Oh, that's a great way to do it. So I think Betty asked that, right? That's a great tip for Betty. Mint leaves is a great thing to do, to put in water. That's great. Thanks, Joy. Hey, Deb. Okay, what makes a big difference when you've installed in me? Okay, what makes a big difference that you've installed in me is that it's okay to be flexible and switch things up. I totally agree. I think that part of my lack of success has been failing at rigid approaches. Okay, like being too strict and trying to stick to it too strongly, and being able to stick with it. Then feeling defeated, mixing things up and not worrying about being perfect has gotten me out of my soul. I think that's I love that. That's a wonderful comment, Debbie. I mean, I think that's really great. It's funny because the older I get, the more I've loosened up in a lot of ways too. Like I always had this rule, even when it came to working out. Like say it was a day where I'm supposed to do like a hard, high intensity workout. That's the only workout that I find that I do that I don't really look forward to anymore. Is I get on the elliptical, I get on the Stairmaster at my gym, and I'll just like brutalize myself for like 20 minutes doing this high intensity stuff. But some days I wake up, and we all know, I talk about this all the time, I got this bad knee. Some days I wake up and my knee is killing me. I'm like limping. And years in the past, I would say, no, this is my high intensity day. I got to do it. I'm not going to mess up my schedule. But now that I'm older, you know what? I instead of me doing that high intensity, I'm going to go take a 2-hour walk, right? I have the time because, with the gym, I can work on my schedule. And then I wake up the next day and my knee feels a little bit better. I'll do my high intensity workout today too. Same thing with these fasting strategies. If it's a day like even today, I'm supposed to do OMAD, you know, but for some reason after my walk, I just find myself, boy, I'm really hungry, you know. Plus I drank a little rosé wine last night. I was up till 3 in the morning waiting for my daughter to get home. So I'm probably insulin resistant, you know, from that. So who knows, you know, maybe I'll have a little something to eat. But before I'm supposed to today, like I'm not supposed to eat till like 4 o'clock, but maybe when I get back from my walk, 1, 2 o'clock. Now, well, that's gonna be 1, it's gonna be 3, and maybe I'll have a little something, or maybe have something before my walk today. I'm actually feeling a little hungry today because I think I am insulin resistant. I was up till 3 in the morning. I was kind of, you know, rushing around today. Maybe even just having a little bit of this half and half in my coffee is making me feel a little hungrier. You know, it's kind of funny, but I totally agree with that, Debbie. That was a wonderful comment. You know, you're really contributing to the group. I really appreciate it. Everyone's comments really helps everyone else, which is so nice. Let's see what Jeff's got. My birthday's August 2. Whoa. Leo, no, I'm actually a Virgo, Jeff. That's funny. I guess I'm right on the cusp, you know. So we're probably pretty close, though. That's great. Yeah, we got to celebrate. We got to do something, you know. Wonderful. Okay, so let's go back to the sleep. So definitely, sleep is an issue. Stop eating 3 hours before you go to sleep. You know, obviously reduce stress. Okay, some things I do. There's a couple things. I mean, you've heard this stuff before. I did blacking out my room. Tremendous difference. You know, I find my wife even wears one of those things. I do it too from time to time, keeping the room dark. I used to have like a red light, like one of those electronic lights. I even got rid of that. It's pitch dark my room, which makes a tremendous difference. Like I said, no late night alcohol. I sleep better when the room is cooler, no question about it. We're like kind of kooky with the air conditioning in my house. You know, I've even read studies showing that if you keep your house cooler, it increases your metabolism because your body has to like generate heat to keep yourself warm. I really keep our house like 68 degrees. One of the only good things I ever had put in my house was like central air conditioning. It's the only, like I say, it's funny, it's the only the only person who's ever come to my house and put something in that actually worked was my air conditioning system. Everything else I've ever had done was like a disaster. It just breaks and doesn't work. But that really was a big plus. Oh, Melissa's here. Hey, Melissa, thanks for showing up. I'm 56. I bike ride 4 days a week. 16/8. Okay, Monday through Friday. OMAD Saturday. Ooh, we think alike, Melissa. We're doing very similar. And Sunday. Okay, so OMAD Saturday and Sunday. Been at this since March. Broke my plateau and I've lost 15 pounds. I eat a low carb, high fat. Ooh, we think alike. We're doing the same thing. Wonderful. I'm so happy for you. That's great. Fantastic. Right. So I blacken out my room. I keep it like ice cold, not ice cold, but pretty cold. I feel like I sleep better there. Even if I want to put a blanket on at night, I prefer it cold even in the summer. No late night drinking. If I am gonna have a little like rosé or maybe like a light beer, I'll do it like at 6 o'clock. I'll do it earlier in the evening. And these are some supplements you can say. You know, melatonin and tryptophan. I think sometimes I will take them. I don't have it here. I was taking what's it called? This is Onnit has one. Onnit, which makes that alpha male. Onnit is Joe Rogan's company. He has this he calls it more of a mood enhancer. What it does is a serotonin enhancer. It has tryptophan in it. Tryptophan is an essential amino acid that helps the body make serotonin and also can help you sleep at night. And then melatonin, you know the brain makes melatonin. It will help you sleep at night. So sometimes I'll take 2-3 grams of melatonin. Sometimes I'll take tryptophan. I will do that. If I felt like my sleep cycle's really messed up, like say I went on a trip, or sometimes when we change the clocks, or you know, maybe I'll do something like that. And then another big thing is the more sunlight you get during the day, this is no doubt, the better you'll sleep at night. Great for your circadian rhythm. So it's so important, like the first thing in the morning. That's why taking those half-hour walks first thing in the morning, if you can do them with like no sunglasses on, no sunscreen on, good for your vitamin D, right? Good for absorbing light. It's going to like jumpstart your circadian rhythm. See, light and food regulate that circadian rhythm. You're going to sleep better at night. There's no question about it. I really can tell. Even when I find like it's cloudy, I feel like I don't sleep as well at night. So those are the things that I do that can really help you with your sleep. Let's see what James got here. Mike, I think I can speak for everyone. Thank you for doing this. Oh, I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I switched to this every Sunday schedule. I hope you like it. We had a pretty decent turnout earlier on in here. I think we had almost 30 people in here, which is great. I was getting worried that if I do this every Sunday, that less people will come up. I don't want to repeat myself, but you guys let me know if you feel like I'm boring you every Sunday talking about these same things. You know, let me know and I'll switch back to it every other Sunday. But I really like doing it. So I appreciate it, James. Thanks for the comment. Okay, so that's it pretty much. But let me go over this. I always like to end. I want to give you guys and gals an idea of how I've been eating, and I've been so hooked on and this is what I mean by food quality. This is my low carb whole natural food diet. I really do appreciate you doing this every day. Oh, great, Debbie, good. I'm gonna stick with it. And let's if I do it a couple of times, I would get like 3 people in the room. If it's just you, Debbie, James, I don't know, maybe we'll switch to every other. But I really appreciate it. Plus, I was so late this morning, getting this thing started because, like I said, I was up so late. I have like an email list with a few thousand people on. I normally email my list, and I also like text a number of like maybe like 20 other people, and I didn't do that today, So a lot of even some of my friends that I grew up with and know, I normally like to text them, some family members too, say I'm gonna be doing this. I didn't have time for any of that, so I think we would have had another 10-15 people here if I did that, but we'll see. So this is how I've been eating. This is what I mean by whole natural food diet. I've been hooked on these salmon raw eggs. I have some other videos on it. They're somewhat expensive. They're like $10-15 for this little container. I get like 2 servings out of them. I get them at Whole Foods. They're so high in those omega-3, omega-3 fatty acids. I try to take in a gram or 2 of the EPA, those omega-3s. So good for brain health. So good for reducing inflammation. Plus, I love the saltiness and the taste of them. I don't know if you have had sushi with those raw eggs on it. I love them. So I take an avocado, I remove the pit, put a tablespoon, a teaspoon, in each. I absolutely love it. And I spoon out the avocado. So I'm getting so many healthy fats, monounsaturated fat from the avocado, super high in potassium, loaded with fiber. I love it. Then I've been eating, like, strawberries are in season now, so I've been eating a lot of strawberries lately. A lot meaning 5-6 a day. It's almost a free food, loaded with the antioxidants, a ton of fiber. Plus, that makes the food so much fun to eat. And guys, I'm always prioritizing protein. So this is about an 8 to 10 ounce pizza. I think this is an Nordic Track, 50-60 grams of protein. I wanted a little bit more. So 6-7 grams of protein per egg. So I added a couple of hard-boiled eggs, pasture raised. Love it. This is how I've been eating. Let me show you another one. That's the same one. Let's go with, this is interesting. And this was a little bit of a cheat day for me because if you notice, there's a lot of white rice underneath this sushi bowl. But I loved eating this. This was like salmon sushi, high in omega-3s, a little bit of beans here, a cucumber, and a nice avocado. And this is what I do, whenever I eat sushi. And I actually had a sushi roll not that long ago too, which I'm going to show you. I think I may have it here. Is I'm a believer in the resistant starch. A lot of people don't believe it. Like I know Ken Dr. Ken Berry, his YouTube channel, he did a video saying he doesn't believe it. But I know Dr. 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂 believes it. I think Dr. Berg believes. These are all the YouTubers that I follow. When you take like a white potato, you take white rice, or you take like a starchy carbohydrate, and you put it in the refrigerator overnight and it gets cold, it chemically changes and it becomes more of a resistant starch, meaning that the calories in the white rice, your body, it almost becomes like a fiber, or like it becomes partly undigestible, like it feeds the good bacteria in your stomach. So when I do something like this, and I know I'm going to be having like a cup or 2 of white rice, I buy this the day before. I really buy it the night before. Like there's a local supermarket near me, and I put it in the refrigerator, and then I eat it the next day. So I feel like the white rice is more resistant starch, so it minimizes that blood sugar response. So, and I love eating something like this. It's such a treat to me. I actually like this so much. I did it twice this week. I bought like a salmon sushi roll. You know what I've been doing? I've been taking these. I hope you like these videos. I've been doing a lot of those short little videos on what I eat in a day when I break in the day. Let me know if you like it. I've been doing a lot of them, and I also been putting them on TikTok. I never really did TikTok. They're exploding on TikTok. It's amazing to me. I've been doing like 2 a day. I'm getting like 10,000 views on every video I do on TikTok. I can't believe it. I even took a couple of my YouTube videos, put on TikTok, and they're exploding. I got 1,000 subscribers in like 2 days on TikTok. It took me a year to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So check me out on TikTok. I don't know if you're on TikTok. Just look me up, 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃. I think I'm 𝘾𝙊𝘾 or 𝘾𝙊𝘾 Fitness. I'm not sure. I think 𝘾𝙊𝘾 on TikTok. But I also put those little videos on the YouTube channel, and I also put them on Instagram in my Reels. So if you want to see how I'm breaking my fast every day, I'm going to start doing those every day. I haven't done like a high, like one of my nicely produced like 10-minute videos in a while. I'm gonna do that. I just haven't done it yet. I want to pick a really good topic to do that. Let me give you another example. Let's see what that be. I finished my coffee and now switching over to my Pellegrino and lime. Ooh, that sounds good, Jeff. That's great. Cool. Oh, those edamame beans. Yeah, right in the plate. Yeah, edamame beans. Yeah, I guess a little soy. I don't have that much soy, but a little bit's good. Yeah, that tastes great, though. It tastes great. That's what Gene said. Hey, Mike, you know that the RDA for... I know, is 0.89 per kilogram. I know. It's so low per pound. That's quite a fewer than one I know. It is. I mean, that's when, like, I talked about Proline before you got here, Gene. I was talking about that when I gave my protein recommendations, because I'm into more. Like, I know Dr. 𝘾𝙃𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂 and people and vegetarians, and they believe more in this approach. They're so concerned about mTOR and about constantly spiking mTOR and growth signaling that it's going to make bad things grow within the body. I'm in a different camp. I definitely think, there were people like, and then I give the other counter argument. There are guys like Paul Saladino, the carnivore guy, even Dr. Ted Needleman, the PE diet. He eats 200 grams of protein a day. I don't think 0.9 grams per pound of lean weight is really excessive protein. I think it's like a perfect, adequate amount of protein if you're physical, if you're exercising, if you're moving around. It's debatable. I mean, the research is mixed. I think it's a reasonable amount of protein. I'm sure like a guy like Paul Saladino will say you can triple it, whereas a guy like Dr. 𝘾𝙃𝘾𝙃𝘾𝙃 will say, no, Mike, you don't want to constantly spike mTOR. But I also pointed out, like I said earlier, Gene, is that I find that the intermittent fasting, when you're eating that much protein, is the ideal mix. So, for example, when you're fasting for, say, 16 hours, obviously you're down-regulating mTOR. You're up-regulating AMPK and the sirtuins and all the good stuff, right? Autophagy and things like that. And then when you're giving yourself an 8-hour eating window, yes, you are spiking mTOR, the growth signaling within the body, but you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. So you're cycling between up and down regulating mTOR, as opposed to like eating high protein constantly all throughout the day, right? Eating 7 meals. And I did that as a bodybuilder. I eat 6-7 meals a day. I wake up in the middle of the night to eat some protein because I said, oh my God, I want to gain muscle. I was doing all cookie things in my 20s. As opposed to just constantly mTOR. If you're cycling in and out of a fasted state, which is down-regulating to a fed state, I think you can eat protein like that, and I think it's really good for you. Especially the older you eat, the more protein you need. But that was a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so let me go back. Let's go back to some of the meals here. I give you, right, there's my sushi bowl. Okay, I showed you that one. Oh, this is just another one. See, I've been so hot on these salmon roe eggs that this is a great meal. I did a video on this one when I broke my fast. So I got just maybe 10 ounces or so of grilled chicken breast. I do it with a little extra virgin olive oil. When I'm watching my calories, which I'm watching now, I always measure my EVOO. When I'm not measuring my calories, I just take the bottle and I'll saute the chicken. Now I go 1 tablespoon, 140 calories. I go in there. So I keep it a little cleaner. I just use like salt, pepper, a little onion, and garlic powder. I love making like that. Once again, back with my strawberries. And this is my arugula salad. I'm always talking about arugula, my favorite microgreen. High in nitrates, which converted into nitric oxide, which is great for blood flow, vasodilates. It's just so healthy for you. I got an avocado in here too, and I even I'm so hot on these salmon roe eggs, I even sprinkle some of these salmon roe eggs on the arugula salad. It tastes great. I loved it. People really liked this video too. It did really well on TikTok. And this is my classic, right? My typical sardines. I have my can of sardines. I felt like there wasn't enough protein, so instead of adding the eggs, I have some smoked salmon here, super high in omega-3s. I did my fish eggs and my avocado, and this time I did a combination. Actually, blueberries were on sale in the grocery store. I got a pint for like $1.98. Ooh, that was a great price. Normally they're like $4 or $5, so I just bought a few of those. Got my strawberries. This is how you have to eat, guys, gals. I mean, this is my style of eating. I love it. If you're not, sometimes I'll go pescatarian for a month or two. Let's see what James got. Mike, is all animal protein equal? Or are there different beef, chicken? I prefer beef and sardines, not too much chicken. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, they differ in a couple of different ways. Just think, first of all, they differ in how much creatine is in them, right? Like a red meat has more creatine. I think it's like 2 pounds of red meat has 5 grams of creatine, whereas like 3 pounds of chicken has 5 grams of creatine. So that's an issue. The other thing is every protein source has that different amino acid profile. Like that's why like leucine I was talking about. Like dairy is like really high in leucine, isoleucine, valine, like really high in the branched chain aminos. all the animal proteins are really high in those branched chains, which is good for muscle building. Something like a hemp seed or pea protein, or like those soybeans, like those I'm pronouncing wrong, the adenami, right? That's going to be lower in like leucine, lower in certain amino acid profiles. Whereas I like collagen, I talk about all the time. Collagen is an incomplete protein, doesn't have tryptophan. So those are the biggest differences. Is that the different animal sources of protein will have a different amino acid profile. That's why, and different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, right, too. So it's just good to mix it up. I'm a fish lover. I love fish. I love the high omega-3s. I'm worried about Alzheimer's and all those things as I get older. So I try to really eat enough omega-3. Sometimes I take even a fish oil supplement, but I eat so much fish. Like on a day like this day, when I'm having, these salmon raw eggs, sardines, smoked salmon, I'm probably getting a couple of grams of those omega-3s right there. So I'm not going to take a fish oil supplement. But on days when I don't eat any fish, which is rare, but there are days, then I'll take a fish oil supplement. Debbie, what brand of salmon roe eggs are they packed in? I've been buying it at Whole Foods. Let me see. I think I can. Let me see if I can pull up. Let me see. Let me look here, because I recently did some videos on this. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of it. It's sorry, Deb. I don't have it. I don't have it in front of me. But if you look on my Instagram page, I have some pictures of them, and I just did. I may have even done a video. I don't know if I released it. I released it on TikTok. I'll release it today though. I'll show on Instagram and on TikTok. I had the actual little jar. It says caviar on it. I think it's $14.99, and I got it at Whole Foods. But sometimes it's on sale for $9.99, which is great. But I'm probably spending $5 to $7 a day on these salmon roe eggs. I'll let you know next time for sure, though, Deb. That's great. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this. Any questions? I think we still have a few people here. Any questions before I go about anything? I want to give you guys a minute. I think we got an hour 45. That's great. We had a pretty good turnout today. I'm glad. I think that this went better than I thought, considering I didn't do my normal slide prep. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, thanks, Dev. Thanks for the heart. Right back at you. I really appreciate it. All right. Thanks, Gene. Thanks for the super chat, Gene. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to see how you're doing. Okay. RDA doesn't care if you're healthy. Research Google benefits high protein. Oh, thanks, Joy. That's cool. Backing me up, which I appreciate it. But I know Gene meant something. He was just, just making a point for discussion. So I know Gene needs more protein than that, which is great. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next Sunday. I'm not sure what the topic's gonna be next Sunday. Let me think about it. If you have any suggestions, let me know. And also, let me know. I have to do like a nice produced like 8-10 minute video. I haven't done one in a while. I've been doing all those shorter videos. Let me know what if there's any specific topic you want me to cover in a video like that. But I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Get outside, take your walk today. Stay healthy, stay well, and I will see you all. Thanks, Jeff, and I will see you next Sunday. Take care, everyone. Thanks for